My name's Olive Valdez. I was born in Kentucky, grew up in West Virginia, then ended up in Denver, came on a cattle drive for vacation, met Demetrio, a confirmed bachelor, and a year later we got married, and I've been here 30 years. When I lived in Denver, I lived in an area, Greenwood Village, and we all had some acreage and we had horses, so I was a horse nut, still am. My girlfriend called me and she had heard about this cattle drive and asked me if I'd come with her, so she hauled our horses down from Denver and we spent a week in the mountains. And I loved it. When I came over the hill, I thought, oh, what a beautiful place. I could live here. Well, I did. I didn't realize it, but I often say, when I die, I don't have to go to heaven if I could just stay here, because I'm already in heaven. This is my home that I love every inch of it. The animals and the beautiful, beautiful nature that God made for us. And of course, I love my husband too, so that helps. But yes, I've always been an animal person. And the reason I got started on this, what I did not know was going to be a political path, I never saw anyone work harder than Demetrio. He worked and he worked and he worked and got so little for all those hours. And I just kept thinking, there's got to be some way to help. So I felt that Farmers Union would be a good step forward. And that's when I got active and got a lot of folks to join and went forward from there. Just never gave up, just was convinced and dedicated to the cause of making farmers' lives easier. So I did everything I could. Demetrio was certainly a prime example of someone who had such a good heart, such a love of the land, and yet wasn't able to make a living wage when he was just working as hard and as smart as he possibly could. So then I wanted to help, and that's why I did all that I could, just to make his life easier. And in return, we hoping to make our neighbors' lives easier. So I'm still here after 30 years, and it has really hurt me to know and visit with friends and neighbors and see how worried they were. See how worried they were because they wanted to send their kids to college but had no earthly idea how they were going to be able to do it. So some of them, the kids were able to get scholarships and go to school, and their parents helped out as much as they could. But I think invariably it was the knowledge that if their child could get an education, then they in turn would help them keep going when their educational needs were taken care of. So I'm a big one for education, and I don't care what field it is, learn everything you can. And in some way or other, if it benefits no one else, it's going to benefit yourself. That security of knowledge that folks can't take away from you. And Demetrio, this guy, in my belief, he's a genius. He has done impossible things. To think, high school education, he had to work constantly because all the other members of his family, except his mother, were crippled. They were really handicapped. And he did all the experimentation and continued experimenting with his cattle. And after 32 years, he had naturally fat-free beef. If Ted Turner or some huge conglomerate had that, we couldn't have carried the money in a bushel basket. but because we were small, didn't have the money to get out there and buy an ad at the Super Bowl and tell folks we existed, then we slowly but surely have faded out of the picture. But we wanted the kids to have clean meat. We didn't want them to be eating all those, fatty, hormone enriched meat. That just wasn't our idea of what children should be eating, and we thought they deserved better. So we worked that way. We used to give meat to our doctor, and he told us he had a little granddaughter, and he said he switched her to meat using our meat. No side effects, no nothing. She just tolerated it beautifully. It was probably the cleanest food that child had ever ingested, because it just was so clean and not tampered with. So we laugh sometimes. We say we're missionaries, that we're out to save the world and tell them, hey, we can help. But at this stage in our lives, we've slowed down, and hopefully someone else will try to do what we did. But broke our hearts to sell those blonde cows. I always called them our golden cows. I mean, beautiful animals, fast growing. They gave back so much. They gave back, we could have asked for more. And then we had to sell them. But that's the reality of life. But it wasn't for lack of trying, and it wasn't for lack of not being smart enough. We were those things, and our hearts were good. We tried to make a good difference. So, and here we are, and here we'll stay. Well, one thing was nice. I was a wildlife commissioner for Colorado, and I enjoyed doing that because I was able to give my insight into what's happening in agriculture, and how folks in agriculture are probably the best stewards of the land that you will ever find, because their very survival depends on taking good care of that land, making it produce, and then ensuring that because of your care, it can produce another year and another year. I was glad that I could say, there was no conflict between wildlife and agricultural animals, that they can coexist. The most thrilling thing for me was to see the elk out grazing in the cow herd. Now that, to me, I thought, this is wonderful. How great. There was no problem with coexisting. And then I hopefully was able to bring up items that needed to be looked at insofar as safeguarding the wildlife and the animals, and animals that would infringe on the agricultural community, and to find out real life solutions that could be made. So it was all with the purpose of learning and growing and improving whatever we were doing. And Demetrio has just done that over and over again. This is the smartest man I ever met. He learns on his own, and he's eager to learn, and I've learned so much from him. Now, he says I've taught him English, and I tell him he's taught me about life, the real life.
He's teaching me.
Okay, well, maybe that job isn't completed yet, but we're still trying. But this has been such an enriching experience. It's just been wonderful. Yes, there's prejudice. Don't you kid yourself. I mean, look at me. My white skin and my blue eyes, and not a trace of an accent anywhere. So I kind of got a lot of it I got it from the Hispanics, and I certainly got it from the Anglos, that here I am, this white woman married to a Hispanic male, and I have a mind of my own. And I'm glad. I never see it as being dominating and trying to put my views on other people. It's simply a sharing of the information that I've gained through the years. And I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I've learned a lot. Lucky I was in the right place at the right time and married this 39-year-old bachelor. I sure changed his life. And he changed mine. And it's been a wonderful partnership. Really happy. We'll be married 30 years, August the 9th. And we're still going strong. If you scrape very deep, it still sits there. It still sits there. So I am aware that there's a prejudice that I wasn't aware of when I first came here. I'll give you an example. I needed a fan for my stove. It had burned out. And I called and asked if they had the fan, and they said yes, that they would order me one, but they had to have a deposit before they would order the piece for me. Well, I needed it, you know, as soon as I could. It was wintertime, and we needed that heat dispersed. So I called my sister, who was in Alamosa, told her to go to the store and give them a deposit so that I could get the part. She went to the store, gave them her name, of course, and the part that she wanted, and she said, oh, and how much is the deposit? And they said, oh, no, we don't need a deposit from you. And she let them have it. My sister called. You wouldn't order the part for her because she had a Hispanic surname. And here I can walk in here because I'm white and with an Anglo surname. You're going to order it for me today without any deposit. I call that prejudice. And she left. So, I mean, it's a pretty good example, I think, of you know, because of my name. I mean, she was so angry. And I had never even, it hadn't crossed my mind that there would be a difference. I became aware that there were two worlds out there. And like Demetrio said, when we went in to try and borrow some money, well, gosh, I knew we owned, you know, these 600 acres. We had 600 cows. We were making money. We just walked in there so innocently and got shot down so violently. No, they wouldn't loan us any money. And I thought I didn't hear him correctly, and I said, well, how much money could you loan us? Because I've forgotten the amount. We went in, probably 100,000 or something. And they had said, no, they couldn't let us have it. And I said, well, how much money could you loan us? None. I couldn't believe it with all our assets and good credit history. And they were a government agency that had been supposedly established to help folks just like us. They weren't doing their job, and they probably still aren't.
For other people who just moved into the valley, it didn't have anything to go in there and borrow money.
Yeah, other folks could walk in and they could get money, and we looked at them and we knew their financial status, we knew their assets, but when it came to us, it was a different story. Nothing we had was good enough. I got active in Farmers Union, and I think I got over 50 new memberships. And because of my activity, they asked me to represent Farmers Union at Ames, Iowa. So I went to Ames, Iowa, and President Clinton rated me as the #1 speaker out of all those there. And it's quite an experience for a housewife in little Antonito, Colorado, to go and talk to Vice President Gore and Secretary of Ag Glickman. And the president really liked what I said. And so the Washington Post interviewed me, the New York Times, and I was on TV in Ames, Iowa. One fellow, I'll never forget him, older gentleman, and a pickup with a camper on it pulled up out front one day, and I went out. This man had driven all the way from Vermont to come see me because he had seen me on TV with President Clinton. And he wanted to know about our meat and what kind of people we were, and what I said, was it really true? And he just wanted to say, you know, he had health problems and he had such a hard time existing because of all toxins in the air and in the food that we eat. And he just wanted to come out and see what kind of person I really was and what Demetrio was like, and the animals. That was a long trip to verify what I'd said. Maybe the bank won't loan you money, but by darn, what we have in our character, in our hearts, in our spirituality, well, you can't buy that. That's priceless. How lucky, how fortunate we are to live in this area. So you face discrimination, and you get smacked down a lot, but by darn, you get back up and your heart's still good, your integrity's sound, and you continue. And that, to me, makes me a rich person. I don't care if I have $14.15 in the bank. You couldn't buy me. I am not for sale. And that's what I meant. We are rich. We walk the land and we love it, and we feel so rich, so privileged to live here and to be together and to work as a team. And well, God's good to us, and that's what we say so often. God is so good to us. Sometimes we get out of bed and kneel down by the side of the bed and we just tell him thank you. We appreciate it. We're rich. We're rich. You can't argue with what's valuable to us. Just can't buy us. And always, no matter how hard times are for us, if you have a need and we can help, we're going to be there to help you. That's the nice thing about love. I don't care where you find it. Love is so elastic. It just, you know, you have love and you give some to this, and it's like elastic. It just keeps stretching, and it's very flexible, and you're never left poor after you've given love away. You're always richer. So that's the way we live. That's the way we live, and we're happy. We're fortunate. Yeah. God's been awfully good to us, and we're going to continue being good to God. We hope. We try.
Let me give you another example. About 4 Sundays ago, we go up to church to the Conejos Canyon Community Chapel. And on the way to church, we see deer and elk right in the middle of the highway. I heard a bighorn sheep with one big ram. He's almost white, big horse, standing right in the highway. Yeah.
And there were
just on the way to church.
And then on the slope, there were 7 wild turkeys.
Oh, and then the wild.
When I was a wildlife commissioner, we brought 20-some young turkeys, and we stocked them up the canyon. Well, lo and behold, there are some of my turkeys. And, you know, wasn't I lucky to be able to bring those turkeys here and everyone can enjoy them? Folks from all over. And that's another one of those treasures that we own. We did that. We helped.
She brought lynx.
Lynx.
And we had peacocks, and they could survive because they'd be up high in the tree. But they're real loud. They make a lot of noise. Well, her lynx, I guess, could hear them from the mountains. They came down and got them.
They did. They killed my peacocks. I told him, don't they know I'm a wildlife commissioner? Those lynx, I turned those loose around here. And he said, maybe that's why they got your peacock. But anyway, I went back to the commission meeting and I told him, you got to do something about those lynx. They killed all my peacocks. And they all laughed and laughed. And then about 3 months later, we got a claim in from someone from Chama. The lynx had come down and killed all their peacocks. So I was vindicated. They knew I was telling the truth.
You know, the peacocks are so loud, I'm sure they were
saying,
come and get me, I taste good. If you want to hear good singing, especially gospel music, listen to Olive. She's been doing it since she was that big.
Are you in the choir?
No, I lead the singing. We don't have a choir. We're a transitory congregation up there. Most in the summer, the end of May, folks come from Texas, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, you name it, they come up there to get away from the summer heat. And then in September, they start moving out to go back home again. So it's just me.
In the winter, sometimes it's a dozen people or less. In the summer, sometimes it's
well, in the summer, we'll have sometimes 120, 130. The little church is packed. These are the words. In shady green pastures, so rich and so sweet, God leads his dear children along, where the water's cool flow bathes the weary one's feet. God leads his dear children along, some through the water, some through the mud, some through the fire, but all through the blood. Some through great sorrow, but God gives a song in the night season and all the day long. My family sang. My mother and father and my brother and my younger sister. And we would go all over singing. Then it turned into Mother and Roseanne and I singing. So we went all over. My mother would say, I can't sing with you girls. I'm an old lady. She was 50. I'm too old to get up there and sing with you all. And we'd just manhandle her and drag her up there and she'd sing. But yeah, it was nice back south because back in the south it seems like there is so much gospel music and everyone sings, and if you get off tune or something, no one really gives a hoot. Sometimes they'll jump in and hum a little bit to put you back on tune, and you just keep going. And so that's what I grew up singing.